Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast. I'm super excited. Today I have with me the gorgeous Hallie Avolio, manifestation coach, and let's just say she's pretty sassy. So welcome to the show, Hallie. I'm super excited to dive into this epic conversation that I know we're about to have. I'd love for you to introduce yourself a little bit and share a little bit about your background while you're at it.
Hey, Christy, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I knew when we first met that we were going to be soul sisters with our shared love of the F-bomb. So
yeah.
Yay! Fuck yes to that.
Fuck
yes. So yes, I'm a manifestation coach. I'm based in Southern California and I work with people all over the world. I do mostly work with women, but I work with people all over the world to help them create what I call their fuck yes life. Fuck yes. And,
absolutely.
You know, it was born out of me living what I used to call my checkbox life, as in everything that I did fell into one of those little boxes that you check off. You know, that little green check emoji? I felt like my entire life was that. And I was going through the motions, doing all the things, being successful according to kind of traditional definitions of success, but never feeling really connected, complete, whole, aligned, fulfilled, purposeful, until I had a pretty epic breakdown. And that led me into a complete disruption of the patterns I had lived in for 38 years and realized that it was time for me to do something different, even though there was a little bit of kicking and screaming, you know, along the way.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to change. Even when we know that change is actually the best thing for us, it is still difficult. I mean, our nervous systems are created in a way that they like to keep us safe, and safe is familiar, not best, right? So there could be some confusion in there, and while it's not easy, it is completely worth it.
Absolutely. I was on a call earlier today with one of my one-on-one coaching clients, and we were talking about bringing something that you recognize in your subconscious into your conscious mind, and then realizing that you're ready to shift this thing that no longer serves you. And I said, look, you have been living with this thought, this pattern, this behavior for over 4 decades. Just because you had the realization now and you're bringing it to your conscious awareness, yes, that's a huge step, but think how much time you still need to invest into unpacking it. And of course, there's going to be discomfort. Of course, there's going to be resistance. So your job now is to kind of make it as comfortable as possible along the way and really just make note of the moments on the journey.
Yeah. And the journey is what is actually much more important than that end destination anyways, because that's where all that beautiful growth happens. That's where all of the experience exists, is along the journey. It's not a final destination, right? And we're not going to be done here until the last breath we take. So every step is an opportunity for that growth and learning.
I think that's where it gets confusing for people, especially in my world. You know, I'm helping people in the context of manifestation, which of course is a very broad context. And, you know, I almost struggle with using that as my title to say that I'm a manifestation coach, because, you know, what does that even really mean? But the idea is that we have the opportunity and the agency to live a life that fills us with purpose and makes us feel good. Because ultimately, it's not about the dollars in the bank. It's not about the title on your business card, if people even have those anymore, or on your social media. It's not about, you know, how much sex you're having, or, you know, what kind of clothes are in your wardrobe. It's, do I wake up each morning and I feel good? Do I feel good in my life? Right? Which goes back to your idea of safety. Yeah. Because if we feel good, we create safety, we give ourselves permission to step into these opportunities that do light us up, that do become this fuck yes energy, as opposed to just checking off the boxes, doing the things that we've been told were what we were quote unquote supposed to do.
Yeah,
to
that
be
good
successful or
girl,
to live life.
that whole good girl thing,
I
right?
know.
Mm.
Man, I was the queen of that. The queen of like the gold star. I was part of a book collaboration a couple of years ago, and it was a really cool collaboration. The book is called Feisty, and each chapter is a story from a woman, sharing her own kind of feisty story of how she really stepped into her own power.
Yeah.
And I realized that in telling my story, which, by the way, pulling that out of me, I thought it would be such an easy task. And really, I mean, man, it was heart-wrenching. And just to relive my pain and to tell a story in a way that would really connect with the audience, it really took me on a roller coaster for the couple of months that I poured into writing just this one chapter. But I realized that so much of what motivated me and was my driving force growing up was this idea that I could get the gold star. I was the gold star bearing good girl. That's all that I wanted. That's what I thought was the essence of life. And when I realized that that wasn't it, I went bonkers and I just rebelled against everything that I thought was correct. And I couldn't reconcile what did make sense, what did feel safe, what did feel like purpose and connection. And it was like my brain got so unwired that it was like it short circuited. So I went down this path of self-destruction before I got back to this place of, oh, wait a second. If I just take a breath, if I just take a moment, I can actually find this peace and this happiness and this core of myself that is more authentic to who I am. Fuck the gold stars.
Yeah, I mean, when we start to expand our awareness, sometimes it results in our whole world crumbling, because what we thought to be true before we discover sometimes, that's no longer true. Maybe it never was true. Maybe it was, as they would say, all in our imagination. I mean, ultimately, I think nearly everything that we experience in our reality comes from the space of our imagination, at least as far as it goes, where we are creating our experience of reality through our filters, right? Through our reticular activating system, which narrows down the way too much information out there into what we can digest as a human and makes it a little bit more palatable, but it might not be working on the filter that we want, right?
Right.
So everything can then kind of become exposed, and we realize, oh my goodness, like this, I have been holding this filter, this set of beliefs, this mindset, this view of reality, and it's been playing out. And to me, that's, kind of what you're talking about when you're manifesting. You're creating, you're involved in the process. It's not like a magical switch gets turned on or off. It's you are participating in that and bringing to life those things that maybe begin just in your imagination.
Right. Well, and it's the idea that we are co-creating, right?
Yeah.
But the co-creation is you have to do your part. And the main energy of manifestation, which I'm sure you know, obviously and your listeners probably know too, is we have to become an energetic match for whatever it is that we desire. But we don't just go from claiming what it is that we want into all of a sudden you're now a match. I mean, on occasion that does happen, right? There are those circumstances where you're like, oh, I want this thing, and boom, here it is.
Yeah.
But 95 probably percent of the time, right, we have to make the tweaks and the adjustments to become the energetic match. And then it's about noticing the pathways along that journey, noticing what are the signs that show up, what are the energies that I'm experiencing, how do I feel in my body, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
not just thinking it through.
How do I reconnect, mind, body, soul as a unit, right? So that we as a whole human can be moving in alignment.
Exactly. And also it's reconciling, right? There's also a sense of loss, right? There's almost a grieving period, right? If you are really shifting who you are, and I think this is from my own story, what I went through when I made this realization that I was dramatically living out of alignment And I got out of the phase where I was just in constant numbing and dissociation through drinking and partying and really just checking out, not connecting to my family, not connecting to my kids, to my husband, not even connecting to my friends, but doing everything that I could to escape. And then I hit this rock bottom place in my life where I was just so absolutely disgusted with myself. I can't remember if I've told you this story before, Christy, but I was in a dressing room and I was shopping for a dress for my mom's birthday or something to wear. And it was this tiny boutique. I was the only shopper in the boutique at the time. The shop owner was a lovely woman, and she kept asking me if I needed help finding anything. I grabbed armfuls of clothes, took them into the dressing room. I'm trying on all these outfits, and even though these clothes, I thought they would all fit me, literally none of them fit my body. So it's like one after another, I'm trying to squeeze my body in and do this. And even that was clearly out of alignment. So I end up with, 2 racks full of clothes that nothing fits me, nothing works on my body. I'm standing in my underwear, looking at myself in the mirror under this horrific dressing room lighting, of course, right?
Yeah, they're the worst.
The worst. And I'm like shooting darts at myself in that full length mirror. The self-loathing, the complete disgust, the disbelief, really.
Yeah.
That I had gotten to the place where I was standing. And I just wanted the world to open up and swallow me whole. Yeah. And I remember really quickly grabbing my own clothes that I had worn to go in and basically running out of the store because I was just in such a shame spiral. And I got to my car and I called my husband and I just let him have it for clearly no reason except I had to unleash this shame and anger and frustration. I just went from there for about the next 48 hours into this epic temper tantrum where I just had to expend all this negative energy that had been building. While I had been dissociating and numbing out for 2 years, everything had built up. And on one hand, I feel fortunate that I was able to make a fairly quick in human time shift. I had this 48-hour period of just complete unleashing. And then I was so spent, so exhausted that there was this window of opportunity where I think it was divine intervention that said, you are not meant to self-destruct. You are meant to figure this out. Yeah. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that looked like. But I did know that I had to start with changing my physical body because that's what was familiar and that's what I had done for many times in my lifetime. So I immediately started and found a workout program and I just went all in, nutrition, exercise. But the other key component there was that I started to really take interest in personal development. And this is what made the biggest shift for me. So while I'm working on my physical body, I'm also working on my mindset and starting to learn things like the compound effect, starting to understand the concepts of self-love, of affirmations, of mindfulness. And these are concepts that even though I knew them peripherally, I had not applied them in my adult life. Yeah. And when I gave myself permission to dive into those, I really found a place for my heart to come into this expansion and really see the world through a new set of lenses, basically. Yeah. And it both felt aligned and also scary as fuck. Yeah. Like now I have to grieve this old version of me. And I went through all the stages of grief: anger, depression, frustration. I mean, I don't know all the steps of the stages, but I mean, it was like that part of me, it didn't die because obviously it's still part of me and it's integrated into who I am now. It's evolving, but I had to honor. Yeah. I had to honor it and see it instead of running away, which is what I had done so many times in the past. I had to really witness. Truly witness myself. And, in the book, Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, he talks about being, the observer of yourself. And I had to really step into that conscious observation, and it's painful.
And I think this is why people often revert to old habits because the uncertainty is overwhelming, and when we're not prepared and we're not equipped to face that uncertainty, it can create nervous system responses that's just like,
Yep.
whoa, hold the fuck up, let's go back, let's back up the bus right to where we were, even if that was a sufferfest. And it takes time to integrate these new pieces into our identity. It's almost like unlearning, right? All of that good girl bullshit and the capitalist, patriarchal, societal bullshit that we've taken on and started to believe is true about ourselves. It's like unpacking that, right? Getting curious, like, where are these things coming from? And are they actually serving me, or are they actually keeping me stuck in the current patterns and habits and loops and unnecessary suffering? Because anything that's in the past, if you're continuing to replay that, like, time to let it go, because you are meant to create that space, just like you spoke about, kind of breaking it all down. It creates this new space from which you can then start creating with intention, right? You can go after the things that make you feel really fucking good, that light your fucking soul on fire, instead of settling for that mediocre shit because you think you fucking should do what other people want. Exactly. And like, nobody else knows you like you do.
Right.
Nobody. They absolutely cannot. And so we really have to stop taking advice and suggestions from anywhere outside of ourselves, which is not easy to do, right? We have been conditioned to do that our entire lives in order to survive, basically. And so there is some unlearning, some undoing, some letting go, and some creating space from which to emerge, right?
Absolutely.
And the grief is going to come along with that. We're complex humans. And listen, you can feel grief towards the thing that you're letting go of and simultaneously feel excitement or expansion or passion or happiness or whatever. We're beautifully complex, capable of feeling such a wide range of experiences here in this human meat suit. You know, we tend to limit ourselves and we try and avoid the ones that are uncomfortable, but we need those. They give us perspective.
And I love how you bring up, the complexities of being human, and also the duality that we can process many energies at once. And one of the things that comes up oftentimes with my clients is the kind of false narrative that we need to be healed before we can manifest more. We need to be healed before we can live our fuck yes life. And I would say, no, you can heal and manifest at the same time. Your healing is not separate from your manifestation. Your healing is not conditional, or rather your manifestation is not conditional upon your healing. And so if we can understand that our healing is going to also be a lifelong journey, right? It's a lifelong journey of healing. I'm still healing. I want to always be healing, right? Because that's part of my personal evolution, my personal growth. And as I get to a new level of myself, professionally, personally, health-wise, in relationship, financially, wherever part of my life, as I get to a new level, there's more parts of me that need to be healed, that need to be unpacked, that need to be evolved into that new space. And so you have to give yourself permission to hold space for both energies simultaneously, which is, I give myself permission to heal, and I'm living my fuck yes life because this is the one I've got. And I want to enjoy each day to its fullest, because this is what it's about.
Life is short, and we're here to have all of those amazing experiences. Our intended state is to feel good. And when we are not feeling good, that typically indicates that something is out of alignment, right? But so many of us have just really gotten used to living a life where we are so out of alignment all the time that it becomes our normal. So how do we shift out of that normal and into our fuck yes life when there's so many things pulling us back?
I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? And for me, what I've found is that, and this is based on, my personal experience and the work that I've done coaching thousands of people all over the world, is we have to start taking responsibility, and we have to start taking agency, or understanding that we have agency in our life. And also we have to be intentional, right? that you can't, this idea of surrender, for example, it's often misconstrued. And what I see a lot of people do, well, I'm surrendering, I'm just sitting back and waiting for life to happen. But the thing is, when you do that, then you're subjected to all the external noise with no filter. But surrendering is the energy of, I'm allowing my life to flow, I'm allowing my life to unfold as it's meant to, and meanwhile, I am taking the reins. I am setting intention. I am showing up for myself every single day. And so for me, the way that I do that, my primary modality is using affirmations.
Yeah.
And it's not just saying words that aren't meaningful.
Right.
It's feeling the words. It's being the words. It's the embodiment of the affirmation. So it's being consistent. It's using them all day, every day. And reminding myself, when I call the negative talk, I call that your mind monsters. So when the mind monsters show up and tell you some crazy shit about how you're not good enough, because ultimately that's what it always comes down to, in any flavor you want to call it, that you remind yourself, wait a second, I'm actually doing a really good job. And I have evidence to prove it, because I know that I showed up for myself today. I know that I thought of something that I was grateful for. I know that I had intention in moving my body, in how I fueled my body with food, in being kind to myself with my words. And I'm doing the best I can. So screw you, mind monsters.
Yeah. And the more that you show up and doing those things that are for your best, those things that shower yourself with the love and the nurturing that you need, the more those become habits. But the more you really learn to not only reconnect, but also to trust those inner nudges as to follow the things that are actually in alignment for you. And I think ultimately that healing isn't, people are, I think, view healing as there's something wrong, or there's something broken, or there's something missing. But I actually see it quite differently. And I see healing as an uncovering, a discovery that you were already whole, and really allowing, and not even just allowing, but like really just fucking embracing, bringing in and accepting, like radical acceptance of all of those parts, especially the ones that are really fucking hard to love, especially the ones that you really want to fucking hide, right? The ones that you especially just are so ashamed of. Those are the ones that when they are brought to light, and it doesn't have to be brought to light in front of the world, but your own light, for you to see and look at them and embrace them as part of your whole human. This is the beautiful thing of it, is we're already whole. It's just that we have this illusion that we're not, that there's something wrong, that there's something that needs fixing, or there's something broken or bad innately with us. And that's just not the truth. That's just, a conditioning that we have been believing probably for most of our whole lives, because it seems to be that, that mind monster, like you say, I would call in my book, I call it the asshole mind, really just real quick to just swoop in there, right? And we just got to remember, we're not our thoughts, right? We are the observer of our thoughts. And this is how we can create some spaciousness between those asshole mind thoughts. Just so get out of here, get the fuck out of here, my asshole mind. We're not here for that. And remind ourselves who we truly are, and we are whole. And if we can learn to look at ourselves from this whole ass complex human lens, it makes those affirmations flow a little bit more easily, because we're not some broken fragment of, I think I should love myself, or I really don't know how to love myself. But when we accept all of it and know that all of it is okay, it's much easier to lean towards, I love myself, I accept myself, taking radical responsibility for the things that I'm doing to create my experience. And so I think that, shifting your perspective even on healing, and yes, it is like an ongoing, because it's like an onion, right? We're peeling layer after layer after layer. And honestly, we'd probably have our minds explode if we uncovered too many layers all at once. Although sometimes, like you said, sometimes we end up kind of like having this complete breakdown, and we're kind of left in the rubble, and we've got to figure out where to rebuild from there. And that's okay too. Every experience is fine. It's really nothing good, bad, wrong, right? Any of that. But it's just interesting because the whole thing is really about the journey.
Right. Right. Exactly. And it's like one of the things that I talk about is with self-love is that we were born loving ourselves, right? You don't know any babies that don't love themselves, right? I mean, a baby looks in a mirror and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so cute, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are born loving ourselves. There are no conditions that are placed on us when we're born that say you're not enough, you're not worthy. But at some point in our early childhood, right, somebody tells us no, something happens, we have some external experience that usually triggers us into questioning our self-love, our self-worth. And the way that I like to frame it is the journey of coming back to loving yourself unconditionally is the journey of living. And that's the journey of living your fuck yes life. So even though it sounds a bit sad to think that we loved ourselves unconditionally and then we were triggered into not, I actually think it's a really beautiful unfolding and discovery of the human experience to come back full circle and to really love yourself from a whole, authentic, unconditional perspective. And that might be your entire lifetime. And that's beautiful because it's going to be ups and downs and backwards and forwards and missteps. And it's all exactly as it's meant to be for each of us.
Yeah. And that's what actually makes it really interesting. You know, I talk to my kids a lot about this because a lot of humans sort of go out and live and they're probably completely unconscious. Like, you know, it's not a conscious thought, but they, on some level, sort of expect everyone else to think exactly like they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then they're bothered by people who think differently, which I think is very interesting because I think those differences within ourselves and between us and other people and between, you know, one circumstance or one experience to another is what makes life so fucking interesting. That's what makes it the adventure. And you know what? Play and fun aren't just for kids. Like, we are meant to have a good experience, a fun experience. Not to say that anything that's not fun or good is bad or wrong, because all of it just is. But we're meant to feel good and alive and experience that fuck yes life that, you know, just has us waking up full of excitement in the morning, full of passion and a fire burning in our soul to go after, you know, whatever it is that we desire, right? And create that for ourselves because we're the ones that are able to do that. And no one else can do that for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. We definitely do go through some childhood trauma, and it's inescapable, and it's no one's fault. It's just the way it is. When we don't have our needs met as a helpless child, we are traumatized by that, right? And we have these coping mechanisms. And I've been reading Gabor Mate's work lately, and he really talked about how, as a child, when it comes down to sort of this choice between my parents are falling short or it's me, mentally we cannot get on board with the people who are here to keep us safe and alive. We can't mentally get on board with that idea. So the default is there must be something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And this unlearning, unpacking, and destroying all of that, which is just a survival mechanism, because ultimately, on the flip side, if we believe our parents or caregivers are incompetent, that does not look good for our survival.
Right.
So that is not a good choice. So we go with the lesser of two bad choices. Right. And we choose, oh, it's me.
Right.
And on one hand, when I discovered, holy shit, this is me, I'm creating this, that was actually a huge epiphany for me to take that radical responsibility, like, oh, I can change it.
Mm-hmm.
But until you kind of get to that place, you can end up really being stuck in this, like, oh, it's me. It's my fault. And when we stay focused on the problems, we keep having problems, right? And so if we want to manifest more goodness and a fuck yes life, we've got to start focusing on that which we desire and the feelings that those are going to ignite in us. I know that you're also doing some meditations as well. I have been listening to some of your meditations on Insight Timer, which I love. If y'all don't have the app, it's a free app. Just there's, I don't know hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
of
like,
amazing
yeah.
meditations on there. It's incredible. And it's all, I guess not all free, but like the majority of the content on there is free. And there's some additional like pro content that you can get, but it's amazing. Like, and for me, meditation really was the tool that helped me to create that spaciousness we talked about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
creating that distance between me as the observer and my thoughts, and particularly useful when it comes to distancing myself from that asshole mind, and those negative thoughts, or the inner critic, the trash talking, I don't know, like just the bully inside of your mind, so that we can distance ourselves from that, create space, and eventually, create the freedom that we're looking for. I posted earlier today about, which is not today, but the day of recording, about when you're surrounded by like chaos, the world seems like there's a storm. It's just really important to remember that the eye of the storm, that place of that calm, is actually within you. And so
Mm-hmm.
meditation is one amazing tool for discovering that inner peace, that inner calm, and that inner groundedness from which you can then create.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that you use meditation as a modality to really connect more deeply within. For myself, my own meditation practice started a couple of years ago. I was introduced by a dear friend of mine who is I would say she's one of my mindfulness mentors. And I definitely resisted meditation a lot at first. I thought, I can't sit still, I can't listen, I can't
Right?
focus, I can't breathe. I had a million excuses.
Yeah.
And then when I gave myself permission to just try it, what I found is that I really liked it. I really liked that intentional calm. And, I talked before about, if you want to live your fuck yes life, you have to show up with intention. That's kind of the secret sauce, if you will, of living a life that really lights you up and feels good. Meditation isn't necessarily for everyone, but our lives are so busy, so inundated with just noise from all places. And some of it's good and some of it's not good, but it's noisy. And meditation for me, I find it as a peaceful space to go to just be with yourself, to just turn off the noise for a moment, even if you take 5 minutes. It doesn't need to be an extended session of meditation. Some people really love a 45-minute or an hour-long meditation session, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel tremendous value, relief, and peace from even a 5-minute session. And for me, what I found is it really helped regulate my nervous system. It helped me come to a place of calm, of inner peace. And there's plenty of times when I listen to a meditation, a guided, or I'm just, in my listening to some ambient music, or even just with my eyes closed and no sound, and my thoughts will rattle through my brain. And that's okay. It's also given me a tool of patience and understanding and self-compassion to say,
Yeah.
you know what? Today's a day where my mind is just running wild. It just has a
Yeah.
lot to say, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I can still sit here for just a few moments, even with my mind running wild,
Mhm.
and I can give myself permission to just take a breath, and just even physically calming my body by sitting still for a few moments in this noisy world we live in, I find to be really powerful to activate the purposefulness, the intentionality, and to really just understand who you are as a person.
Yeah, like you said, meditation isn't necessarily for everyone, but I would say that it would benefit most people. And again, it
I
doesn't
agree.
have to be an elaborate practice. And I'm going to say, really, even in such a way that really I'm kind of encompassing mindfulness practice in this. So your meditation might look like taking a few deep breaths. It might look like going for a walk, moving some energy. Or it could look like sitting quietly or listening to some music or listening to a guided meditation. And I think that majority of the people who would say they don't have time or their mind is too busy or I can't sit still are probably the people who would most benefit from spending just a few minutes choosing any one of these types of mindfulness, just to bring yourself back into connection with yourself so that you
Mm-hmm.
can actually start to listen, right?
Yeah.
Spend so much of our experience talking, sharing, doing, and we don't take enough time sometimes to just sit quietly and listen. And we can really, really create a deeper connection within ourselves. And I really truly believe that our truth is the way to freedom. our own truth, and mine is different from yours and from someone else's. And whatever that truth is, that is the path, right?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
we've got to, in some way or another, just create some space to listen so that we can uncover that path for ourselves.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I would love for you to share with the listeners what you're working on, any projects or offers that you have that you're excited to share about, and where we can find you. And we will have some of the links that you shared in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Well, one thing that I would love to invite this audience to is if you're ready to really step into this place of living your fuck yes life, of starting to be more intentional and applying these practices that Christy and I have been talking about today, I have a 21-day affirmation reset challenge. And the reason that I love this particular program is because it's just such a beautiful transition wherever you're at right now. And that's why I use the word reset, because it gives you a space to reset your energy wherever you're at. And 21 days is a great place to start with building a new habit. It's very easily accessible. It's a 2-minute audio affirmation once a day for 21 days in a variety of different topics. And then there's follow-up journal prompts that you can dive into as well. So that's a beautiful offer. And you can find that and all my contact information on my website, which is just sassyhealthy.fit. And if you are on social media, I invite you to join me on Instagram and TikTok. Those are my probably my main hubs. At Sassy Healthy Fit is my handle, and I put out a lot of content all the time. So if you're interested in just bringing in some golden nuggets of content, please follow me.
Definitely follow Hallie for some amazing, super fun affirmations that you can start to incorporate, because I love all of your amazing affirmations. I fucking love my life, or something like that was the one that really stood out to me. I'm like, yeah, that's how we
feels good, right?
Live our fuck yes life by, retraining our brain, rewiring those neural pathways to flow with more ease in the direction that we want it to go, right? By reaffirming, telling ourselves, telling that subconscious, I fucking love my life. I'm living a fuck yes life.
Exactly.
So on that note, I would love for you to share one last practical tip that our listeners can use starting today to go out there and start taking aligned action towards living their fuck yes life.
Okay, I was thinking about what I would offer. What is the easiest, most simple thing that you can implement right now? So this is one of my favorites. I use it all the time and my clients love it. Is if you have a phone, presumably you do, an iPhone, an Android, whatever it is, go into the alarms and set up alarms on your phone. You could do 1, you could do 3, you could do 7, I don't care, that have a label with an affirmation. So the very simple one you would do is that at 7 a.m., 12 p.m., and 7 p.m., the affirmation says, I am enough, and then I am worthy, and then I am living my fuck yes life. And when they go off every day, you have that beautiful reminder. You don't have to think about it. It just makes a noise, and there it is. And it just gives you a pause to take a breath, to say the affirmation, to maybe put your hand on your heart and just, I am enough. And just be in the energy of the affirmation. So that's my tip. And I hope you'll give it a try and let me know what you think of it.
So good. I am going to follow that up with one last question, actually. And I am just curious what you have to share for anybody who really struggles with taking those big affirmations to heart. They do not feel good enough. They are not currently living their fuck yes life, and they do not know if they're worthy of it. What advice do you have for those they're still amazing people, and they just don't know how loved and worthy and enough they are?
I love that. And you're so right. And that when we say affirmations, we have to step into them. We have to believe them enough to be true. So there's a couple of approaches. The first one is you could turn it into a question. So I'll just work with the one, I am enough, because that's an easy one to talk about. So if saying I am enough doesn't resonate, you're like, I'm not enough. This is bullshit. I can't say it. Ask yourself the question, how would I feel if I were enough?
Yeah.
And so just give yourself some space to explore that and see if there's a word that comes up for you that you can play with. Another way to look at it is you could say, I am safe to say that I am enough right now. And when you give yourself that permission to be safe, to get into enoughness or worthiness or living your fuck yes life, it creates a bridge between your current reality and where you want to go. So those would be my 2 recommendations if you're struggling with any of the affirmations.
And also, just to add one more on there, maybe forgiving yourself for not believing.
Oh, yes. 100%.
Allowing yourself, I forgive myself for not believing I'm enough.
Yes.
So lots of ways. I also have, like, as part of my book, I have sort of a affirmations cheat sheet. And so that's sort of like some little part way kind of affirmations that you can use as you're on your way to fully feeling into that full affirmation. I'm learning how to. I love myself even, as I'm discovering this new way of being. Those kinds of things can really help.
I love that. Because another starter I love is I give myself permission to.
Yeah. ...
Yeah.
Amazing. I think that the listeners are going to find those really valuable. I would love your feedback. So if you found that really valuable, please let us know. And thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Create Your Happy. I love you. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you're ready to go a little bit deeper and do the work for yourself, my book, Unstuck for Women, is going to help you to create your personalized spiral stopper using my spiral stopper method in order to shut down all that overthinking and overwhelm that have been keeping you stuck in your current patterns. I'm going to explain inside the book how your brain works and why it might not be currently helping you to accomplish your goals and how to change that. I'm also super excited to announce the upcoming launch of my brand new course, the Get the Fuck Unstuck Adventure. In this course, you are going to learn how to accept yourself as a whole-ass human, perfectly imperfect just as you are. You'll discover how to free yourself from unnecessary pain and suffering. You'll learn how you can look and feel better in your body right now. You'll learn to understand yourself better in order to intentionally create the experiences you desire. And of course, you're going to learn how to stop merely surviving so you can finally start thriving. This adventure contains 21 perspective shifts that are going to take you from stuck in survival mode to consciously creating as your next level self. So join us, try on a few new perspectives, play with a few new possibilities, and become more intentional with your life. Registration is open, and the course kicks off on February 6th. If you haven't had a chance yet, be sure to head on over to my website at gtfu.ca for some sweet goodies and bonuses that are going to help you get the fuck unstuck, starting right now. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.